Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Ellen Harris, and I am the founder and director of Third Ward Zen. Welcome to Third Ward Zen presents Food Movement Yoga, a liberation praxis for community wellness, a three-part virtual conversation series being held on the evenings of June 17th, 18th, and 19th. We are a small nonprofit that supports community and wellness in the Mississippi Delta and beyond by promoting mindfulness, movement, healthy eating, growing your own food, and other wellness modalities. We do this to foster gratitude, peace, and wisdom in the community. In lieu of not holding our usual annual Delta Roots Festival, this year, Third Ward Zen is presenting this three-part virtual conversation series. Through this series, our goal is to continue to carry out the vision of our organization and festival. As a prelude to each conversation, ask yourself the following question: how do we make the magic happen for everyone to either appreciate, support, serve, or take action to address community wellness? Each virtual conversation will last about 30 minutes and include a short video of the speaker's work in the community. If you have a question, please write it in the question and answer or chat section on this webinar platform. We'll try our best to get to any questions before closing. All three conversations will be recorded and uploaded to our Table and Plate Project Delta podcast. A link to the podcast can be found at www.thirdwardzen.net. Now, please join me and be inspired by some folks working in their respective communities on food, movement, and yoga. This evening, our June 19th conversation focuses on supporting youth, yoga, and resiliency in the community. This theme is also a salute to our celebration of Juneteenth. Let us not forget that Juneteenth is just not a story of news regarding the Emancipation Proclamation traveling slowly to the Deep South and Galveston, Texas. It is a celebration of freedom being seized by our enslaved forefathers, mothers, sisters, and brothers, families of ancestors known and unknown. It is a celebration where the struggle for freedom, justice, and equality still continues. Thank you, Thomas Porter and Zen Education Project, for planting verbal seeds of remembrance into my introduction this evening. But before we get started, I'd like to read a short poem to set the moment. It's called A Love Letter to Future Generations, a poem by Naima Penniman, found in We Are Each Other's Harvest, celebrating African-American farmers, land, and legacy by Natalie Bazile. A flower comes before fruit. Love precedes a child. Someone was dreaming of you with a womb full of water and seeds and stars, a drum skin stretched over a full moon. One heartbeat becomes two. One seed becomes 100. You are the result of countless love stories and unnumbered feats of overcoming. Can you hear your mother humming you to sleep while hiding out on escape routes to an implausible freedom you made her believe in? Every seed braided into the crown of messengers before uncertain passages, a love note to future generations, a grain of hope. Somewhere, somehow, there would be soil that would open to receive our prayers and multiply. We are descendants of futurists who did not give up on the possibility at least one seed would survive. The endless tides of transatlantic crossing, auction blocks, monocrop cotton, razor sharp sugar, the harvest of salt, the scalding sun, and burning crosses. Hidden propagation in forbidden gardens, generations of dehydration and bondage, summoning softness from the clouds. Our bodies are made of water and promise. Our mothers did not give up on the possibility at least one seed would make its way through layers of cold, hard, rocky silt and sand and clay. And in the face of great danger, soften its shell, open its hull, extend a tender root, find water and food, trusting there is a light somewhere enough to bloom. A flower comes before fruit. Love precedes a child. Someone was dreaming of you. This evening, speaker is Brother Shaka Jamal Redmond, who is a culturally innovative artist, educator, and filmmaker, and the founder of Olu 8 Film and Culture and Olu 8 Records, based in Oakland, California. Welcome, Brother Shaka.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. That was a beautiful poem too.
Yes. It's a wonderful book with lots of poems throughout it. So Shaka, my first question is for you to briefly describe your work, however way you want to, and why you do it.
Well, the work that I guess we're going to be talking about today is the I Am Hope. And that film, which is about a yoga program that I was running in East Oakland at a middle school called Frick Impact Academy. And it's really about how the young people there were introduced to yoga, how they resisted it and how they took it on as their own. And this particular project is like a blending of the loves of my life, which are film, my artistic loves, film, music, and yoga. So there's a soundtrack that goes all throughout, and that's going to be available soon to accompany the film. It's my filming aspect, which I learned how to edit film back in 2002 at a free community program that was co-run by a former Black Panther in West Oakland. And right then is when the lights really came on about filmmaking. And yoga is something I was introduced to when I was in the Peace Corps in South Africa from 1999 to 2001. And that's something that's just been a part of my life since then. And those three things came together and created I Am Hope. So right now we're, open and thankful for these type of connections to make sure as many people hear about it, see it, and especially have more young people get introduced to yoga and meditation and mindfulness in ways that many people may have not thought was possible.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you. Now that we've gotten a short introduction to you, Jarvis, could you please cue up the trailer to Brother Shaka's wonderful documentary film, I Am Hope?
My mind is strong. My body is strong. My body is strong. I am unbounded faith. I am unbounded faith. I am hope. I am hope. My mind is strong. My mind is strong. My body is strong. My body is strong. I am unbounded faith. I am unbounded faith. I am hope. I am hope.
I knew something was shifting with my students when someone was really upset. And he said, I just need to breathe. I just need to take a moment. I was like, wow, what if I would have been practicing since I was 12?
Like, it's pretty tough to grow up out here. It's a struggle, but you can do it.
Like, when you feel powerful, you can do all the things that you want.
But the only way you can do that is you exercise that power that's within you.
That's where the mindfulness comes in.
My dream is that they can take that, internalize it, and then share it with others.
Because we feel that we're all one. We're all in this together, aren't we? Don't you give up, boo.
We do those things to free our mind, to emancipate our minds.
Here with me, I have 3 of East Oakland's finest.
You say positive things about yourself.
My body is strong.
Just a smooth, quiet place.
I'm about to faith.
Just, you know, getting through some type of stuff.
I'm hope, I'm hope, I'm hope, I'm hope.
Just going up in life.
I'm hope, I'm hope, I'm hope, I'm hope. Yeah.
Very nice, very nice.
Thank you.
I've seen the film and I'm really hoping that an opportunity will come up where I can bring you or the film or the film here to Greenville to show, because I
I
think
might have
it's-
I might have a surprise for you. I might have a surprise. For you. We might make a cross-country trip this summer. So
Oh,
if we can
okay.
make that happen. We coming to the Delta.
Okay, all right. All right. Well, that trailer is just a teeny weeny view
Yeah.
of the full film and what you're doing in your community. But let's go on with our conversation. And I can ask you now, why do you think your work, given the melding of all these different pieces, why is your work important to community wellness?
Oh, this is one thing I realized is that working with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders who were, like I said, a little resistant to what I was offering in the beginning, but eventually were, stepped up to lead other kids in their classrooms and in other parts of the school, was that it's never too early to expand the minds of our young people, to introduce them to things that could better their lives, better their community, and they may be able to use later on in their life, even if they're not getting the full understanding of it. We did a survey, and I think it was close to 20–25% of the kids, at least a quarter of them, were actually going home and practicing and sharing it with other family members.
Oh, nice, nice.
And so when we can plant these seeds early on, we just never know what it's going to be able to grow into. So just like the teacher said, what if I had been practicing since I was 12, right? Actually, she was for the school, Principal Deti. And she's saying that about being 12. So me being an instructor, I was like, what if I could have introduced to the kids when they were 5 years old, right? When they knew there was a place that they could get to, that they could envelop themselves in strength and encourage and with peace, just by breathing, right? Just by closing their eyes just a little bit and going to a place that's always been waiting for them.
Beautiful. So what challenges do you face in this kind of work? As you mentioned, the kids resisting a little bit. What was that, kind of describe what that resistance was and, what other challenges you might have in doing the work?
Well, one thing is that I was open. One thing we talk about in the film is policing and over-policing children within the schools. Mm-hmm. Being a dictator within the schools. And that was something that I knew I didn't want to be and couldn't be if I was going to be able to find success in the classroom. So a kid had to work very hard to get kicked out of my class. And we usually practice in a circle. We leave it optional if you practice on the mat. We only ask that if you're on the mat, you don't keep your shoes on, right? Since we share with everybody, we're laying down on it. I remember there was one kid who was voluntold to come to my class. And the very first day, he stood right at the door with his backpack on and didn't even come close to the circle. And we did the whole class while he was there. at the door. And this happened a couple of times. And then he eventually stepped into the room. And then eventually he stepped into the circle. And eventually he began practicing with us. And I know, or at least I feel, I'm confident if I would have kicked him out the class, God gave him a referral for being what they call it, willfully defiant, because he doesn't want to practice and join the circle, there would be a 99% chance that we would have never been able to practice together. And also trusting in the notion that the kids are getting something out of it, even if they're not externally showing it. We never know what it is that they're listening to. We never know what it is that they're seeing and experiencing that could be inspirational to them at that particular point or later on down the line. And that's one thing I know I had to trust in during that process, to say this resistance is only temporary, and it's not about, and it's about how long can I manage not being in control of having everything the way that I wanted in the class. And that allowed the kids also to start asking for things and shaping the class in the way they wanted to see things.
Right, with the three little sisters doing the chanting and the dance, the stepping.
With the affirmation that we said every day in the class, and they just took it to the next level and shared it with other kids.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So so those are, those were like challenges regarding resistance. Are there any other challenges in doing this work?
Oh, I think there were certain teachers that I think were not necessarily all the way bought in. Some were doing it because it's like, okay, we're doing this now. But I tell you, there were certain teachers who would bring their entire classroom into where we practice yoga. And let me also say that I started off just doing 15-minute drop-in sessions from class to class to class. It began picking up steam where the principal of the school, Principal Detail, said, we're going to give you your own space. And then we're going to say, this is our yoga room right here. So then a whole classrooms could come in and I could just be in one particular pace throughout the whole day. There was a very big difference between the classes who came in and the teachers that practiced with the students in the circle versus classes where a teacher just drops the kids off. I'll see you later. Or they just sit in the corner on their notepad or on their computer, right? When the teachers actually engaged and the students were able to see their vulnerability, that maybe they couldn't do a certain pose so well. Hey, those classes, there was a certain cohesiveness.
Yeah.
Right? Where it says, oh, my teacher's doing something uncomfortable. And it gave them permission to do something that was uncomfortable and not be so self-conscious. And I think that some of the teachers just coming into the class, putting aside their own resistance, it uplifted everybody.
Wonderful. So you know how in yoga, if you do something on one side, you have to do it on the other. So we've talked about challenges. What are some of the things that you like best about what you're doing?
Oh, like I say in the film, the youngsters, they teach me how to have more fun. Like sometimes we so far removed from junior high and high school and college, we forgot what it was like. Because when you're that young, also, almost everything is new because you're experiencing everything for the first time or the second time. And it's just a lot of, at times, it's just a lot of laughter and joy. And sometimes just ridiculousness that, sometimes old folks don't have time for. And that was something that, it definitely, it brought more joy to my life, and also made me realize, I was like, was I like this when I was young? Or is this why I was always in trouble? So that's one thing that I really do love about the work. I love when the youngsters take ownership. and you say, and they say, oh, I want to lead the bell today. I want to lead the breathing exercise. I want to lead the affirmation. I want to lead some of the poses and the asanas. That's when you're like, okay, this is why I do it. Because there are some days where things just don't work out. And then there are other days like, is this the same group of kids? Right? They actually act like they want to be here. Right? So those are like those joyous moments that come on throughout. And, you know, we haven't been in the classrooms, at least running this program since before COVID. So our goal right now is to get back into the classrooms, get back into schools, even if it's just doing at the beginning, shorter workshops with teachers and students, but eventually be able to grow and be able to do it so that we have a sustained home inside each one of these schools that we are planning on working with.
Okay. All right. All right. So lastly, I want to ask you, based on your work and all the other things that you're doing, what does community wellness look like to you in the future?
Community wellness is definitely intergenerational. It's definite. The young people will eventually be the leaders of the community. And it's our responsibility as people who have been poured into to pour into others, right? That's how I definitely see community wellness. I see community wellness as us owning our own land, stewarding our own land, and not having landlords or overseers that can just push us out to do anything we want to. It's like, oh, this is ours, and this is how we manage and curate and love in that space. So it's something that is long-term and not temporary. And then lastly, hopefully that's also in community wellness, we need places that are self-sustaining, right? Can we make sure that we have our own water source, that we have energy sources, something where we have the option and we can be successful and thrive being off the grid? Because many times we're depending upon other things and other people to provide for us. So I figure not real, but a more powerful community wellness is that we can sustain ourselves and sustain the land at the same time.
All right. So before we close, is there anything else that you want to say about what you're doing, or?
I definitely would like to say, if you haven't tried yoga before, or meditation or breathing, just give it a try. You know, even if it's just a minute or two, and to really see, if you take a week, maybe just journal about how you feel from day to day after doing it, because I don't know anyone who has stuck to it that it has not benefited.
So I'm glad you brought that up. You know, I live in the Mississippi Delta, the heart of the Mississippi Delta. This is the South. And I've had conversations with a few folks who question the value of yoga, who look at it in a negative way, that it's a religion or a cult, even that it's, demonic. And it's really been somewhat upsetting to me to hear that. What do you say to that, or have you experienced that before?
Oh, I've definitely have experienced it. It's a challenge at times, because sometimes when people's minds are set, their minds are set, right? And what I learned also from the organizations that taught me yoga, they're called Naroga Institute, and the lead founder is a guy named BK from India, BK Bose. And I remember someone was challenging him about something, and he says, "Hey, this is just what I've learned. This is what I'm teaching, and you can be open to it." It wasn't anything forceful. And he was okay, and he expressed it. It's okay that we have a difference. And he encouraged the person to, like, yeah, continue your practice and continue your own research. But this is one thing that I say to people: yoga, mindfulness, meditation is something that's accessible to everyone that breathes. I was taught that if you breathe, you're practicing yoga, whether you know it or not, right? And the importance of it is because it's the most important energy force that keeps us here on earth.
Yes.
Right? We can live without food for up to a month. We can live without water for 4 or 5 days, but the average person can't hold their breath for more than a minute. Right? And it's many times the least thought about energy source that we need to keep ourselves in balance. We usually just think about eating first, then drinking something, and then, if you're swimming, you're thinking about holding your breath underwater. And yoga, the mindfulness method, it's really about connecting to that power source, right? That as a human being, you need air to survive, whether you're traditional African religion, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, Muslim. That's something that none of us can escape here on earth. And that is something that I think that is universal as a human being. And I haven't found anything demonic about it or anything, so, and I was also taught that people who practice yoga are the ones who also need it, right? So that time may not be right now. It could possibly be later. And hopefully it's not at a point where I think this is one thing that's also critical in the Black community, is that we need so much more preventative healthcare practices, because
Yes.
many of the Western medicine is inaccessible to us at times. Maybe it's because of where we actually live. It could be based upon finances. And it could also just be upon culture and patterns. And we have a right to kind of be skittish about outside influences when it comes to our health, because of how our communities have been abused in the healthcare system. So this is something that is ancient and is a part of our culture that predates our ma'afa or slavery. And these are one of these things that was taken from us along that way. Yeah. And last thing I'm gonna say, this is something that was told to me by elder. And he asked me, he said, "What's the difference between prayer and meditation?" I was in my 20s. I was like, I don't know. This is before I had my yoga training. And he said, prayer is when you talk to God. Meditation is when you listen.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Right? And he said, what the problem is, most of y'all are just running your mouths and you're not closing your mouth so you can listen. You're praying and you're asking for this, this, and that. And you don't take the time to just say, I'm going to wait and listen for the message to come. And sometimes while we're busy doing this and doing that, we're missing the messages that are coming for us, that are there to uplift ourselves, our family, and our community. So we had a good laugh about that.
That's absolutely beautiful. I've never heard that before. You know, I always when I meditate, I always talk about, you know, just trying to quiet my mind and, you know, just be still. But that listening, that's beautiful. I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much.
So sorry about the background noise. I'm next to a busy street.
That's all right. That's all right. I don't hear a thing. So, so before we close again, Jarvis, are there any questions from anyone listening in?
There are no questions, just a couple comments.
Okay.
Deidre Chester seemed to really appreciate this presentation. She said it was so profound, and she also seconded that my comment about the listening with meditating. So
thank you. So in closing, I'd like to give thanks to Shaka and all our speakers during this series. Thanks so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to graciously share your lived experiences with us. To those listening in, thank you for participating with us this evening. I also want to thank Danny Johnson, CEO and creative producer for Special Gathering Event Production, who generously provided her company's webinar platform for Third Ward Zen to use. Benita Rivera, graphic artist, who did our social media and marketing artwork gratis. And Jarvis McWilliams, my IT guy, IT guru, whatever, who always helps me out in a pinch and provided IT support for this virtual series. Thanks so much, everyone. I couldn't have done it without you. That ends our conversation this evening. And I just want to say peace and blessings to you all. Good night.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.